Welcome to Level Up. I'm Sherelle.
And I'm Danny. And this is the podcast where we talk about health, fitness, and mindset. Unleashing your productivity potential. Hacks for maximum efficiency. Wow.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know. It just sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm keen to get into today's episode because in a world that's full of distractions, being productive is so important if you want to achieve almost anything.
I feel like it's getting worse as technology is just emerging. Like people's attention span, including mine, is just less and less and less and less. And like, I even see it with my little nieces and nephew. All they do is just watch TikTok, like YouTube TikTok. They're like, can we watch YouTube TikTok? I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but then they just sit there and scroll.
YouTube TikTok?
Yeah,
what
it's all the shorts on YouTube now.
Oh, shorts.
Because they're not allowed like the actual app.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought it was called YouTube TikTok.
Nah, it's shorts.
Yeah, shorts. scrolling. It's just unreal. And I don't know, do you often get like trapped in those scrolling sessions?
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
I mean, look, especially with social media, I often think about when we grew up, how lucky we were. I feel like we got the last taste of what it was like before social media and technology was mainstream. Like I don't know, I didn't have any of that growing up, right? We didn't really have any of that. I remember when iPods came out.
Yeah.
And now I look at how we're distracted and consumed, and obviously we have online businesses, like being distracted is a part of today's society, and that's why really honing in and being focused and being able to be intentional with how you're spending your time and maximizing productivity and also maximizing rest and like really resting. Like there's a fine balance between both. It is absolutely essential that we have this as a skill because gone are the days where we almost use technology by choice. And you know how some schools are like banning phones and things like that?
During class time or just at
in
all?
general, like a lot of schools are doing that now. What's the point? Like people are going to be using technology for the rest of their life. We may as well teach people how to use it properly, how to use it safely, and also how to use it efficiently while still achieving their goals, because it's totally possible. But if we let it consume us and we just become victimized to it, then we just spend our life scrolling on TikTok.
I know, and I feel like people are losing the ability to actually just sit there and apply themselves because things have been made easier for us. You know, you click one button, food arrives at your door, or online shopping, online dating. Everything is just so easily accessible, which is awesome to save time, but then we lose the practice to utilize our brain power of concentrating and being able to sit there for a full hour, you know, without jumping to another task. And we still have so much time in the day, but you always hear people saying, I'm so busy. But it's like, well, are you actually busy or have you just literally been diverting your attention for the full day?
Yep, totally. I think everyone, like gone are the days that we're not busy. Can you remember the last time you were bored?
Well, I'm weird. So I get bored when I'm not working.
Yes, but when was the last time? Remember at school and you'd be like, oh, I'm bored.
Oh, yeah.
Mum would be like, go outside.
Oh, you mean like that?
Yeah, like
when there's nothing to do type thing.
Never.
Oh,
like
no.
I would kill to be bored. I would kill to just have a week where I'm bored, but we don't get that anymore. And part of it is because of obviously the stage of life that we're at and then also having a business, like there's always shit to do. But then it's also just today's world. And even like with a lot of my clients, whenever we'd be like, oh, how's your week been? Oh, so busy. Like everyone is so busy and I just don't think that we're getting any less busier. And busy is not even a real thing, right? It's not a real thing, it's a feeling. So what we need to do is try and hack our productivity so we don't always feel so busy. We feel productive or efficient or, you know, busy but manageable. That's really what we're going to be speaking about today.
Yeah, and just getting rid of the glorification of busyness. But you do, and we've spoken about this before, but it's like we wear busy with a badge of honor, you know, and and this isn't a bad thing for anyone who does it because I've done it. But
I do it too.
You see people on their stories and they're like, yep, and put their whole to-do list on, which it is what it is. Like it's not good or bad, but you just see it a lot on social media. And sometimes if someone, you know how normally you're in passing with someone in the street, hi, how you going? My default's, yeah, good, busy, and then that's it. Like I kind of just use it as a throwaway as well. But then I catch myself out and I'm like, no, why do you have to feel like you're always busy? Is it because you feel like if you're not busy, someone's judging you? But then maybe I'm judging myself. So it's interesting. With high achievers, it's very hard to pull back.
Yeah.
And we see that with our clients all the time, the ones that do too much. And maybe we kind of just attract people who are similar to us, but it's like the hard part is actually being okay with not having a full schedule.
Yeah, I remember reading, I can't remember where I read the concept about, but...
Oh, I hate when you say that because then everyone's going to be asking about the book.
I don't know if you're like me, this might resonate, but it was something along the lines of, for a nervous system that's always been reinforced that busy equals success, slowing down feels unsafe.
Yes.
Oh, does that just
Mic drop.
Isn't it? And it's like, this is why, you know, when we slow down, we don't even sit in it for long enough to realise that. That's the first thing. But as a society, busy is so highly reinforced that that equals success. It's not the case at all. Often it's the opposite. People that have the space, the freedom, the flexibility, strong relationships, the ability to push and pull, like people that have choice and aren't always super busy, they're the ones that honestly are probably the healthiest and happiest people. If we're just constantly running on the rat wheel of life, it's exhausting. You're going to burn out. You can't stay busy forever, right? Busy isn't sustainable. Busy is like short jab in the arm. And we need to know the difference between short jab in the arm versus, geez, this is my life.
Yes.
You know, so for a lot of people that do struggle to slow down, like ask yourself, why? Like what would happen if I slowed down? What would this feel like? And like I said, to a lot of people, it actually feels unsafe. Like they're not used to it because they're worried about what would happen if they didn't do all of the things all at once.
Yeah, and we know that that's not a way to achieve anything with scattered attention. But it's interesting, like I feel like I'm not as bad at it anymore in a sense. I am more able to slow down or at least have little time blocks within the day to slow down. It doesn't mean you have to take 2 full weeks off, but like micro periods throughout the day or throughout the week where you just give yourself a break, and I'm good at that. But when I was so used to being busy all the time, it's like the voices that would come up in your head, and it's kind of like, well, you're not achieving.
Yes.
You don't get that hit of achievement. You're going backwards. You know, all these dialogues can come up. So it is really important for you, if you do struggle with slowing down, just really reflect and listen to that inner dialogue that comes up. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, do you ever get anything like that show up? Or
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, if you're anything like us, you probably do have those high achieving parts that do love to stay busy, right? And we're not saying to not be busy ever, but we're just saying to pull back and realize that there's a difference between productivity and busyness. And it's really important to know the difference. I remember for me personally, when I had this realization of the difference, it was the back end of COVID and lockdown, and we just moved to Geelong. And I feel it in my body now. It was like the first time I'd stopped and slowed down in what felt like 2.5 years. Because busy isn't just about the things you're doing, it's also about what's consuming your mind. And for me, it was all the what ifs. I'm not sure, like we were leaving Melbourne, we were trying to move out, I was starting a business, I was leaving nursing, I just had all this busyness going on. And I remember moving to Geelong, and when we left, and I was just, and it was just like that one moment where I was like, I've got space, I've got time, I don't feel clouded, I don't feel rushed, I don't feel anxious. And that's what busy feels like for holding on to things for so long. And it was like in that moment that I was like, okay, I'm gonna start really taking productivity seriously. I'm gonna really start training my focus. I'm gonna make sure that the things I'm spending my time on have high leverage, high output, are worth my time. I'm not feeling bad if I'm not in the weeds micromanaging or doing these little things. And really we have to be able to unpack those things in ourselves to allow ourselves the space to pull back and do what we need to do. So that was my first experience and taste of productivity, because I used to just try and do all the things all at once for everyone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm so fucking tired.
Yeah.
So being able to like pull back and prioritize yourself and work out what's holding you back, whether it's the safety thing or people pleasing, like that's always going to be the first step that we won't dive into today because that's a whole nother podcast. But that was for me. I don't know if you had a similar experience at all, but something has to change for you to allow yourself to lean into productivity.
Totally. No, my experience was the opposite in terms of demographic, moving from Melbourne to Sydney.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of jealous that you're in chill Geelong. Yeah. Sydney's like the opposite. You go from being chill to everyone is big. Like I'm in near the city, sort of near the east. So that's like where all the opportunities are and it's awesome. But it feels like people are just rushing for the sake of it. Like, I don't know, when you're on the road, for example, anywhere, and it's like that person that tries to overtake you and they're driving like a maniac and you're just cruising at, the speed limit. And then all their effort, and they end up next to you at the lights anyway. And it's like, dude, what was the point of that? Like,
you don't want to make eye contact, but you're like, who's the idiot now?
Was it worth it? Like, was it worth the stress? Or people that are just so impatient and rushing, to get home just so you can sit on your ass and watch TV. It's kind of like, but you get used to it. Yeah. And environmentally as well, people rushing, people's patience are less. So for me, I didn't get caught up in that because I'm like, I don't want to be like any of you people. Imagine spending your whole life rushing and you don't even know why you're rushing because you're going to get to the place anyway. Your productivity is actually worse. So I like to think of productivity to be like a game of chess where, I don't know, have you played chess?
No, not well.
That's okay. So busyness and productivity, I like to think of it as a game of chess and you're moving. Busyness is moving all your pieces erratically, and you might not get this because you haven't played.
I'm sure someone listening will.
Someone listening who plays chess will understand. So you're moving the pawns and the little pieces, and that's busyness because you feel like you're progressing and moving forward, but the moves you're making aren't really significant. Whereas to win a game of chess, it's actually about sitting back, analysing the board and the positions that everyone's in, and then maybe just moving one piece. But that one move is much more significant than all of the 10 moves that you did before, tiny. So it's about, okay, what's my one significant move today that I can make that will yield the best outcome? And that is called productivity. Because then you can sort of sit back and relax and you've done your job for the day rather than just trying to do tiny tasks that will actually get you nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think productivity is sexy, but I know a lot of people are like, oh, how boring. But if you can think about what could you do if you could really master your focus and be really intentional with the moves that you made throughout the day? If you could execute, if you could get 3 things done, top value, completed every day, how much further could you get? If you stopped getting distractions, if you stopped allowing distractions to take control of your day, what could you achieve? If you didn't spend 9 hours on Instagram, what more could you get done, right? And the whole I don't have time, check your screen time.
Yes.
We all have time. We all have time. It's just how we're prioritizing it and how we're delegating it. And you can spend an hour doing something, like you can spend an hour at the gym and you can have an awesome session, or you can spend an hour at the gym on your phone between sets, not really being focused, not tracking anything, and you've just honestly wasted the hour. So for me, like if you're going to spend the time doing something, you may as well get the most out of it. That's the way I like to think of productivity. And in a world that always does try to optimize everything, I also like to think of productivity as when I'm resting, I'm resting. So if I'm having a Sunday off, I'm usually off social media, I'm not answering emails, like I'm also flexing discipline and willpower to not do it so that I generally come into Monday feeling refreshed and not just getting distracted on my phone again and just allowing people to steal my attention and focus. So it's also about understanding, why is this important for you? Like, what could you actually achieve? You know how people say, like, if you won $1 million, what would you do with it? It's like if you could get all your focus and intent back in the day, think about how much further you could get with your profession, your studies, your goals. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because it's so important in a world that is full of distractions. Our focus is the only commodity that'll never be replaced, right? You can't buy more of it. You have to flex and practice it to get better at it.
Yeah, and that's right. And we're all about managing energy over time. Like what you said, if you're going to commit to a rest day, only rest. Don't let some of the tasks for Monday sneak in on a Sunday, because then you haven't actually achieved a full rest day. It's just been a blur of everything. So that's what it is like to get stuck on the hamster wheel, when you're just literally floating around, cherry picking little tasks that need doing, and it's useless. You're just literally burning your energy for no reason. So there was a book, I think, by James Clear. I'm just going to say any author. Rather than saying none, because then we'll get the messages. Who wrote the book?
What's the book, Danny?
I don't know. So there was a book on productivity, I think by James Clear, or Atomic Habits it might have been, where you have one task at a time. Then if you start to get distracted, what you tell yourself is, no, right now I'm resting and all I'm going to do is rest.
Yep.
Or right now I'm doing online programs for clients and all I'm going to do is online programs. So you verbally have to try and catch yourself out and it works. Like, I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but I just find sometimes I'm scrolling on Instagram and I go up and I just throw my phone.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of anger there and
Yes.
resentment. I throw it on somewhere soft. But it's like, no, just, you just need to
That
snap
expensive
out
piece
of
of
it.
technology that I just threw at the floor.
Pip it off the balcony. I'm sick of it. Like, you just need to start catching yourself out because we are not here to glorify multitasking.
No.
We are glorifying just sticking with one task at a time.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
the flex.
There is a great book that I can recommend. Okay, it's better than Atomic Habits. Full focus. It's called Stolen Focus, Why You Can't Pay Attention. Have you read that one before?
No.
Really good. One of the bits that stood out for me was he mentioned that every time we shift our focus from one task to another, so if you're doing something at work and then your phone rings or you answer the phone or you check a notification, every time you shift focus, it takes your body and your brain 28 minutes to get back into flow. Think about it. Have we been productive
annoying.
at all? Like, how often are we shifting our focus from task to task?
Yeah.
It's so prevalent. I don't know if you've read that one at all.
No,
or
but
of
I've
it, Stolen
heard that.
Focus.
And you feel it. If someone knocks on the door when you're in flow, like if you're at work,
Yep.
come to talk to you about something on the weekend, like, cool, it's fun to engage. But then by the time you get back to that task, let alone getting to the flow mindset that you were in, it's been like, 28 minutes plus some.
Yeah.
Yeah, that frustrates me.
Absolutely. So yeah, today as well, like I'd love to get in and share some, I guess, different tips and hacks that both Danny and I use ourselves with productivity and being efficient with our work. And full transparency, guys, I am not naturally productive. Like my attention span is like bing, 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 bing. Like if you know my personality, I honestly could be having a conversation with Luke about one thing and thinking about something at the same time. That's the way my brain works. And then I will say something and you'll be like, we were just having, and I'll be like, oh yeah, did you see this? And like, I've just got one of those brains that just like has like 6 conversations. There's something going on in there. Anyways, moral of the story is I have to do a lot of little strategies and like a lot of planning and organization. And I use a lot of different tech and just things to help me stay focused, because if I didn't, I would be a wreck. Like I would be a mess. And one of the things that I realize as to maybe why this is a little bit tricky, in my previous career when I was a nurse, we were reinforced for multitasking. Like in an interview, it was one of the things that you'd say is a strength. Like I'm a really good multitasker, because you had to be honest. You're hanging on IV fluid, you're signing a medication chart, you're bloody doing someone's blood pressure, you're handing out medication. Like you've got to multitask. It's actually a skill that they want you to have. And I was freaking good at it. Like I'd be doing 500 things at once. When I went into business though, I was like, wow, this skill is not transferable. Like, yes, you need to wear lots of hats at once, but it's not about how many tasks you can do in the day. It's about your focus and the quality of the job that you're actually doing. Because one great idea can fuel you for a lifetime. But if you just spend your life doing lots of little things, you don't really get very far unless you're in a job that demands that. And like I said, nursing is one of those jobs where you've got to be quite quick and efficient, and you've also got to like respond really quickly and be able to be pulled in lots of different directions. And there's probably lots of careers and professions that require that. Business at times too. But that is definitely one of the reasons why I struggled transitioning from nursing to business. It's a whole different way of thinking, right? And I would say if you're in any idea-based profession where it's not about the hours that you work or the tasks that you tick off, it's about your quality of thoughts and decision making, which is for a lot of people too, being focused and making the best decision. It's not a matter of how much stuff you can do all at once.
Yeah, you're right. And it's good that you made that clarification, because there are certainly careers that do glorify or, require, multitasking.
Yeah.
And I've realized that a lot of creatives have, brains that are just so expanded. So then why should we put a linear way of thinking on that? Like Paul's mum, for example, sounds like you having a conversation when you said with Luke talking about one thing, then on to the next thing and all of that. But she is like an elite hairdresser and knows a lot about colour and fashion and design and art, very right-brained. But then she's in a position where she uses that to her strength.
Yes.
And, you know, her husband
Absolutely.
does all the left brain stuff.
Me and Luke, yeah.
You and Luke, there you go. And it works really well. It's not like they're trying to change each other. They're just playing to their strengths. And I really think that we can all play to our strengths. But then it does, particularly as business owners and coaches and most of our audience here, we do require a lot of left brain as well. And there's a difference between playing to your strengths versus just being distracted and, you know, not good at focusing. So it's awesome that you made that distinction career-wise. But I think a lot of our audience just, we're very similar in a sense, like we do love getting the shit done, but it's like, cool, let's do it in a way that's actually productive and we're just not burning the candle at both ends. So with the apps, you mentioned, you know, you've got your own sort of things that help you. What would be your number one app or method to help with your productivity?
Yeah, well, what we were speaking about earlier on where we were talking about, it's not about managing your time, it's about managing your energy. That is such an important concept because a lot of people try to simply just time block or just organise the amount of hours that they're doing, etc., and not really ever consider their energy. And I think that's so important because some weeks I could do 35 hours in a week, other weeks I could do 60. And they can feel so different. Like sometimes the work that I've done in 35 hours a week can feel far more exhausting than if I did a 60-hour work week of something that I loved or that I managed my energy. So for me, I think the first piece is always self-awareness, what we've just been speaking to. Like I know that's the way I function. I also know it's a strength in a lot of scenarios for me is that I think 50 steps ahead. And like Luke's just trying to catch up and organise it all. And I'm just like, next, which, you know, sometimes that can be hard, but I also know that that's the way that I process things. I'm also very aware of what people I need around me to make sure that that can be used as a strength. Because if you're an ideas person, and this happens a lot in the creative space, I remember when we had Danielle Weber on and she was saying this, a lot of creatives are great at just coming up with ideas and concepts but doing fucking nothing with it. And you don't want to get stuck in that trap. Like you don't want to have all these ideas and all this amazing stuff and not take action. Because the world doesn't need more ideas, the world needs more action takers. So you always need that second layer and know, okay, well, an idea is only good if it comes to fruition. Like I need to make sure that it becomes something. So for me, it's about understanding what preserves my energy. Like what helps me function at full capacity. It's always going to be looking after my training, looking after my nutrition, making sure I'm getting 7 to 8, 9 hours sleep, having one day off social media every week. Like these little non-negotiables and boundaries are like the big rocks that keep my energy solid. Because when my training's going well and when I'm going well personally, pretty much professionally falls in place. I don't know if you notice this, but if I feel like I'm letting the ball drop in my personal goals, it catches up in work because you are an extension of your business. Like when you're marketing yourself, you're an extension. So for me, it's about understanding what gives me energy. This stuff gives me energy. Like what work gives me energy? Can I do more of that? Can I outsource the other stuff? Can I make sure that the things I don't love doing sometimes, or maybe at times that I need to flex a bit more discipline with, like if I can't be fucked going to the gym, I'm still going to do it because I know that actually fills my cup up and fills my social battery up for when I need to give a little bit more, if I have to have a hard conversation or whatever it might be. So I think self-awareness around energy is so important because everyone's different. Like some people doing the social stuff drains them and they need to be mindful of that. I don't know if you've got anything similar with the energy piece.
Yeah, and that's spot on as the number one because it does flow into every other element of your life, how you're feeling. And you see this a lot with coaches. And I know we've been down this path at the start where you get so excited about business that slowly, you know, you prioritize, maybe I'll put my client in that normal time slot where I'll where I train, or, you know, maybe I'll just skip the workout. You know, I've been working hard, I won't train myself today. And slowly you start dropping the ball on your habits, and then that flows in negatively to your work anyway. So it's like, you do need to be okay with prioritizing yourself. And that comes with saying no. Like what you said with ideas, and we work in business with other people, ideas are flowing all the time, which is great, but you literally can't be working on so many things at once. Okay, you don't have to say a hard no, but maybe not now. Yep, that's a great idea, but we'll work on this project for the next 3 months and then we'll reevaluate that new idea that you have and then work on that. So it's definitely about the energy management of yourself, but then that also comes with saying no to other things accordingly, because how many things can we do in our life?
Yeah.
It's like, what's actually important right now for my health and well-being, then what will affect my business in a positive way and enhance my business, and then what sounds like a cool idea but then actually isn't relevant. So I'll say, look, I'd love to be able to do that, but by saying yes, that will just take away from my priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You have to say a lot of yes at the start, and then you have to learn to say no.
Yeah.
Like, you have to learn to say no, because the more successful that you become, the more opportunities come your way. So if you can't say no, prepare for a mediocre career. It's unfortunate, but people pleasing parts just get in the way, and you want to say yes to everyone. And if you serve everyone, you serve no one. And if you don't serve yourself, you really do serve zero. And a lot of people say you can't pour from an empty cup, fill your own cup up. Fuck all, practice it though, don't they? Right? Like, so many people say it, and I'm like, practice it though. Like, show me that that's truly what you mean. Like, add it to the collection of beautiful quotes on the internet that people say and don't actually follow through on. Far out. Like, I'm so transparent with this as well. Like, to clients, I'm not going to get back to you on a weekend.
Good.
You know, every one of our coaches, myself included, I'm going to New Zealand next week. We have annual leave. Like, we're not accessible. You know, we all have Christmas off. Like, rest is so important to show yourself, but then your clients, your friends, your family, that you're leaning into it as well, because that's what you're role modeling. It also helps to destigmatize rest as something that, you know, we deserve or we earn. It's something that is scheduled, and, you know, it's important. And this busyness stuff is not always going to be equal to success as well. So we have to also practice those things and make time for ourselves if we really do care about the work that we do. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, make sure that you take a screenshot, upload it to your socials, and don't forget to tag us.
Staff members do copy and take note on what the leaders are doing. Like,
absolutely.
I remember when Paul and I were opening the new paddo, and that was one of the toughest times.
Yeah.
It was just so full on. We had really harsh deadlines and uncertainty and all of that. And then look, it was a very stressful time, and that would have been evident in both of us. But then we noticed that the staff members were trying to think, oh, maybe I need to be doing more. And just that busyness and all of those traits sort of started flowing down. And then once we realized, we're like, oh, okay. Because, you know, people started getting more sick, and it just really just changed the dynamic of everyone and how they thought that they should be working. And then, you know, Paul and I had a conversation. We're like, okay, we really need to, like, stop this as best as we can, or at least not show it as much to the staff, because they're trying to copy us now, because they think in order to achieve success, you do have to get to that limit or push past those limits, but it turned unhealthy. So it's like, oh, okay, that flow-on effect is so prevalent, because people do look up to you and think, oh, it must be that way. So you need to role model someone that does reward rest as well. You know, the last thing you and I want is all of our staff members just to burn out.
Yes, no one wants that.
The cogs will stop turning, and it doesn't equal more productivity. It equals way less, because you push yourself. Even in exams, you push yourself so far to study, stay up late, energy drinks, all of that poor culture, you know? Health, I know. And then the exam comes, and then you need 2 weeks off because people would get glandular fever.
Yeah.
You know? It would always happen.
Wow.
So it's like, just maybe study a little bit less and still go to the gym. And it might not feel as though you're as productive, but hey, you won't have that huge come down on the other side.
Letdown effect, Can you remember a time where you weren't burnt out? Like, I feel like everyone burns out from trying to do too much at one stage. The harder you hit the ground, the quicker you learn. But I don't know if there was a time in your life where you remember that.
Yeah, well, it was 5th year of uni when we were doing placement for osteo. But then I was also competing. I did 2 bodybuild shows. We were doing the podcast
then, weren't we?
No, we started after our show.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we started just after that period. So thank God, because we knew to push it forward.
You were like, let's start now. I'm like, oh, I don't think we should do after.
We will not add that onto the pile. But yeah, because I remember waiting at the airport, and my mates were like, oh, you do remember we've got that online exam? I'm like, oh, can you please just send me the answers? So I did have a great friendship group of osteos who helped carry me through. But I would not recommend it to anyone. I felt like I was just juggling 10 balls, and it's like, it didn't work. Like, that wasn't the year that I turned pro. I wasn't really happy with those shows, and we know why, because getting up early, 4 a.m., studying, training, working, exams, patient, it was too much. Never again.
It's too much on the body.
Yeah, what about yourself?
Honestly, probably around a similar time. I remember it was my grad year when I became a midwife. Fuck, I burnt myself out, something shocking.
Oh, yeah.
That was when I think when we did that show together, I was competing.
Yeah, the May show.
Yeah, the May show. I was
cooked.
competing. I was my first year of working as a midwife, and that was fucked. Like that.
It would have been.
That was cooked. And especially, like, I was a nurse. So I went and then I did a postgrad. So they have this like expectation that like, oh, you've been nursing for 3 or 4 years, you'll be fine. But it's so different. I mean, like, nursing versus delivering babies, so different. And then we moved as well into the city. So we had a big move. I was competing and I was doing my grad year as a midwife. And I was just so exhausted. And I had a lot of like family events, like a couple of deaths and things like that as well that just put weight on me. And I remember like the sleep insomnia started to come back a little bit, and like all those just health things, right? Health things were popping up. And I remember getting through that year. I still look at it now and I'm like, that was by far the hardest year of my life.
But I feel like it had to happen like that to an extent, because it's like, okay, cool. You just sometimes have to push.
Yeah.
And you might get a bit sick and, you know, you're going to cry and it could be really shit. But then it's like, just don't do that forever. If you know that there's a time frame in which it's going to end, you can push.
We all need time frames.
But then, you know, those years were some of the most pivotal years of our lives. Imagine if I just overthought and go, oh, no, I'm not going to do my bodybuilding shows. I'm just going to finish 5th year. Or, no, I'm not going to finish 5th year. I'm just going to do the bodybuilding shows. Like, it wouldn't make us who we are today.
No.
So I feel like there's an element of, you still got to hustle for a little bit, but then just know that it's going to come to an end, and don't do it for your whole life just for the sake of it.
Yeah, totally. It's like the higher the climb, the better the view. Like, sometimes you have to go really hard to appreciate, you know, the scenery of what you've achieved. And that's definitely, I look back now and I'm like, heck, I learn a lot.
Yeah.
But I also learnt that I'm never going to do that to myself again.
No.
You know, I'm also like, yeah, I remember when I was like young and dumb, but we all do those things, right? And we all push our body and our mind to its limits, and then we learn from it. And that's what we're sort of trying to share here, is like the message of don't overdo it. Like, it's not just about doing more and doing more, because as you said, like, I totally didn't achieve my potential in any one of those things that year because I just gave 100% to all of it, which ended up being maybe like 50%.
Yeah.
And I think I've learnt now that, you know, we can only really put our focus into a couple of things in our life, right? Like, life's not really that long. And to achieve anything exceptional, it takes a lot of work. Like, I'm always surprised that anything amazing always takes longer than I think. Doing anything, everything takes longer than what you think. Like, you think it's going to take a week, give yourself a month. If you think it's going to take 2 years, give yourself 4. Like, do you agree? Like, everything takes longer.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're talking big scale things, because for some reason we forget to factor in room for error and then other people and things happening in their lives. As long as we, like, if we're working for someone else or providing a service, just communicate it. Nothing grinds my gears more than someone saying, I'll have it to you Monday. And then Monday rolls around, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and crickets. It's like, just give me an accurate time frame. Overestimate. Don't promise something and don't deliver.
Yeah, and look, I've definitely learnt that as well. Like, I never tell anyone timelines. I'll get that back to you as soon as I can or something. Yeah. Because you don't also know, like, it's not your fault if things pop up and you have to attend to things as well. But I totally agree. That one really gets me.
Don't say you're going to give feedback on their check-in and technique on the day if you're not.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, you'll get it within the week.
Yep. I have this part of me as well that if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do everything in my power to do it. Like, the other day I went for a run, right?
So here we go.
The other day I went for a run and I was like, I said in my brain, I was probably like a couple of Ks from home or whatever. And when I was cruising into it, I'd like run for a bit, stop, run for a bit, stop. And I was like, said in my brain, run the whole way home. Because I was like, from this point, I was like, oh, it's probably about 2 Ks, run the whole way home. Anyways, and then I got around the corner and there was this big fucking hill. And I was like, big hill. Yeah, I kid you not. It would have been like, I don't even know, 300-meter elevation or something ridiculous. And anyways, and in my brain, I was like, you said run all the way home.
Oh.
I fucking did. I ran all the way home and I was so sore the next day. Yeah, but I've got this part of me, it shows up everywhere, that it's like, if I say I'm going to do something, I follow through, like life or death.
That's why we get along, because you don't trigger me.
Yes, like I'm like, no, I told Danny I'll do that. And I will. Like if I say I'm going to do something, if it's 11:49 and I forgot, I'm getting up and I'm getting my laptop out and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I love that about you.
You're like, yeah, get some help.
No, yeah, you need help, mate. No, I do love that. You have to have a competitive edge.
Yes. Like I just love people that keep promises.
Yes.
And just follow through. Oh, God, I trust those people. Because I'm like, I know I can tell you to do something, I don't have to remind you. It's just going to be done.
Totally. And when it comes to the actual logistics of day-to-day organisation, I think it's safe to say to-do lists in the bin.
Yeah.
Don't worry about to-do lists. You and I, well, definitely, are about Google Calendar.
We love
If
calendar.
you are not on Google Calendar by now and you're a podcast listener, you're in trouble, because we talk about Google Calendar a lot.
I know.
The best part about Google Calendar is you can organise your tasks in time blocks. Rather than just having a whole list of things you want to achieve in the day or the week, it's about time blocking. So one task, it's going to take me about 2 hours. You pop it in, and then you can just watch as the time goes on, the line moves down, and you go, yep, task complete, next. And then you can observe the week as a whole and move things around if you want. Put everything in there, your training, your doctor's appointments, you know, catching up with a friend, doing the work, obviously. Just put it all in there, and then that actually gives you a realistic idea of how much time you actually have for those tasks.
Totally. I mean, I feel like when it comes to like productivity stuff, you have to find a couple of things that work really well for you. Google Calendar, I know we've spoken about it a hell of a lot, but it is one of those things that if you're not time blocking, what the hell are you doing?
Literally.
How do people do stuff without a calendar?
They just have the to-do list that says Monday, then Monday finishes, and then they cross it off and just change the heading to Tuesday.
Oh, I can't do that. It gives me anxiety thinking about it.
I know.
Honestly, if it's not on the calendar, I forget.
Yeah.
Like Luke will be like, "Oh, did you?" I'm like, "Is it on the calendar?"
We put our date nights on the calendar now because Paul knows I'm a psycho.
Yeah, like I know it might sound like a bit over the top, but if you are trying to maximize yourself and be productive, it's great, right? Like time blocking, but then also you actually, it teaches you how to structure your day, because most people when they start time blocking, they won't do it properly. Like they won't put in lunch or travel time, or you know, they'll be unrealistic with how long they think something's going to take them. So it also teaches you how to prioritize and move things around properly.
Yeah.
Like I use calendar for everything. All our staff use calendar, and we share each other's calendars so we can see what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
And then we also encourage a lot of clients to use calendars too, because we use it for teaching habits. Like put this on your calendar, like I will log my food for tomorrow on MyFitnessPal. Because remembering to do something in this day and age is too hard. We need the cue. And often, like, yes, lists, but like nothing's better than a calendar because it's coming up each day to get it done.
Exactly, and it's out of your head. Yep. There is just something magical about just decluttering your mind. If it's on the calendar, I don't need to wake up in the middle of the night trying to remember that thing.
Yeah.
I used to do that, I don't know, in uni before I knew all this stuff. You wake up in the night, 3 a.m., and then you remember something important. Then you spend the next hour trying to remember it, and it's like, oh, just go to sleep. Now, if I wake up, it doesn't happen often. Just pop it in the calendar, straight back to bed. Perfect.
Yeah. I had a scenario the other day with a client. She won't mind me sharing this story, but she's also got like an online business, and she's traditionally been pretty good, but the last couple of weeks, like compliance has dropped down. She was skipping her check-ins, and I just said, let's have a quick catch up. We just need to catch up. The problem's never the problem, right? And this is for coaches as well. Always get curious first before you go, why are you not doing the things?
Yeah.
Like that's always the wrong approach, because the problem's never the problem. Everyone wants to do a good job at the end of the day. So I was chatting with her and I was like, what's going on? Like I'm just noticing there's some friction popping up. You know, you're not doing your check-ins on time. Do we need to move the day? Is there anything else? And she was like, oh, like, yeah, I just keep forgetting. And it was just not like her. And I was like, you using your calendar at the moment? Like, I'm just not sensing it. She's like, yeah, can you help me like have a look at it? Anyway, she shared her calendar with me, and she's got like 15 sales calls in the week, just scattered through wherever. And she's got like a training at like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and it's just a mess. And I said, are you actually going to the gym at 6? And she's like, no, I'm actually sort of sleeping into about 7, and then because I'm so tired, and then blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, your organization and your management of your energy is shot in this. Like you're not really, it's no surprise you're forgetting to do your check-ins. You're just not managing your energy, right? Because you're probably gonna have to do big weeks to get all this done, but you probably need to condense things. So it is a matter of like moving things around to suit your energy, because this whole, we'll just get up at 5 a.m., like it just doesn't work, because if you're cooking yourself, you need your sleep.
Yeah.
Like I'm big on that. If I'm exhausted, I need to sleep till like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Like I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock. Like I need my sleep, but people just tell you to get up earlier. And that is just, it's bad advice. Like you can't, we just need to manage energy better.
That's how you screw your mental health, just lack of sleep.
Exactly. So moral of the story is like, what's measured is managed. So if you're not tracking your calendar, if you're not looking at these things and you are exhausted, like where are you spending your time? You might need to do a little bit of an audit and go, okay, well, how many hours am I spending doing this? Am I really as busy as what I think, or am I just not focusing?
Yeah, that's right. And if you do have a blank calendar and you haven't done this before, put all of the things that keep you ticking along in first. Training, if you have the flexibility, obviously. What's your favorite time to train where you feel the most energized? 10 a.m., for example.
Yes.
Put it in. Put in training throughout the week. Then map your other stuff around your healthy habits, only if you have the flexibility. So just really prioritize the time in which in the day in which you're the most effective.
Yeah, managing your energy. And
managing it
well.
in that way.
Yeah.
So start with that.
Yeah.
And doing, I don't know where this saying came from, but swallowing the frog.
Yeah,
so
swallow the frog. I say it all the
gross.
time.
I think it's because it's meant to be
I
gross.
used to say eat the frog. And Luke's like, I don't think that's right. I'm like, eat the frog?
Well, you might
Swallow
be,
the
what if
frog.
you're in France?
Maybe. People probably like, what's that mean? Swallow the frog pretty much means do the hardest task first.
Yeah, that's hard, swallowing a
What's
frog.
yours? What is your frog in the
My
morning?
frog, it's just gross. I don't know.
Frog,
Can't
tell
get by swallowing the oyster. I don't know. It's different
Do you know
every day.
what
I don't
mine
have a
is?
frog.
My frog is emails. God, I hate emails. Why is there so many?
I like getting emails done in the morning.
Nah, yeah.
I
do
don't probably get as many as you. How
If
many do
I
you get in a day?
Way too many, honestly. Way too many. Too many emails.
Stop
Everything's-
emailing Sherelle.
Everything's linked to my email. It's like the hub of the business.
Okay.
So I just get it, and because I set it back up in the day, and once it's set up, it's like I can't really change it that well.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of the emails, that's my swallow the frog. That if I don't get that done first thing, clear out this junk, reply to who I need to, they can build up throughout the week, and then it makes the problem worse. So the longer you avoid the frog, whatever your frog is, the longer you avoid it, the harder it gets. So if you do the hardest task early in the morning, it essentially is supposed to make the rest of the day feel like the jobs are easier.
Yeah.
Because you've already done the hardest thing.
Yeah.
So that's one way, instead of just avoiding it, because often we avoid hard tasks, but when we do them, we're like, oh, that's not as bad as what I thought. It's like going to the dentist. You like avoid it
That's
all
a
year.
frog. That's why I haven't been
Oh, me
2
too.
years.
I'm too. But you avoid it, and then you go and you're like, oh, it's not even that bad.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes my frog is like deadlift day.
Yeah.
The training.
Training
I have
days.
frogs within the training week.
Yep.
If I know that my deadlifts are coming up to close to my max or whatever, I'm like, oh, I can't avoid this all day, because then I'll be deadlifting at like 6 p.m. and that would be the worst thing ever. So I just get that style of my training done early, and then the rest is easy.
Yeah.
So that's a frog for me. Sometimes heavy lifts, you're like, I got to do it. Just show up and just do it.
Yeah, well, it's great to practice though doing hard things, because it teaches
good.
you to build discipline and willpower and pushing through as well. And like I said, in our minds, like we have a negative bias anyways. We always think the worst of everything. It's just a human thing. If you can do the hard thing, like not only are you going to build more willpower and discipline, but you're also going to realize it's not that hard, and your tolerance for hard is going to increase, and you're going to become more efficient as a result of it. So making sure that you are leaning in, doing the hardest thing first, is always going to be a great skill to practice. And you're like, oh, I don't want to do it, but I know I need to do it, so you do it. But the other thing to consider is the mental load, right, and the emotional tax on things. And this is massive in any service-based job like coaching or hairdressing or anything where you're essentially working with people. There's always an emotional toll, because we do absorb a little bit just through osmosis of caring and being human, and that also has to be managed. So this is why I'm a big fan of like coaches need coaches or mentors or other spaces. Like if you're holding space for someone, you can't always do that. Like leadership's heavy, right? Like leadership's heavy. So it's nice for a lot of people. I know we have like a lot of, professionals like in the coaching where they just come in and be a client. And they're like, it's so nice just to be like coached and just directed. Don't you reckon? I love it. I love it when I'm like, someone tell me what to do. It feels good.
Absolutely, because it takes so much brain power
It
just
does.
trying to control everything.
Yes.
And yeah, with this comes procrastination.
Yep.
And we all do it. And then if we don't complete the hard task or the hard conversation early in the day, it's so crazy to think of all the random jobs that pop up. It's like, oh, today I need to change the sheets on the bed, or I need to wipe down the fridge right at the back in the spot that I've been avoiding for 4 years. But today, because I don't want to do that task, I'm just going to do all of these randomized things earlier. And you can really just tell when someone is procrastinating. And it's kind of like a dirty feeling though. Like when you get caught in that procrastination loop, do you notice that? Like I just feel, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think if it's my bandwidth's low, and again, if my energy's low, I'll procrastinate a lot. And I recognize that and just go, I need to have a break.
Yeah.
Because if I'm procrastinating, like it doesn't feel good. Like you said, it doesn't feel very good. But I usually only do it because I just don't have the willpower or the capacity to swallow the frog or just like do hard things. I'm just constantly trying to avoid it. But I do find that a lot of people think they're like, oh, they disguise perfectionism with procrastinating. They think that they're being a perfectionist, but it's like, no, you're just procrastinating doing the hard thing because maybe your bandwidth's quite low. So this is why self-awareness is so important, because if you can't actually pick up on these things, you're going to fix the wrong problem. And that's a big part of it. It's like, don't fix the wrong problem. Like energy is always going to be king when it comes to productivity.
Yeah, that's so true. And the environment. So how do you go working at home?
Oh, it's tough. Working from home is so tough. It took me a while to adapt and adjust, to be honest. But one thing that I did is I actually bought a property in Geelong when I moved down there after looking for a period of time, and I found this house that it was like a nice big house, because I've been in apartments and small places, ever since I moved out of home, and I grew up on a farm. So like I've just never had it. I'm like claustrophobic in Melbourne. I found this place, massive home, and it had a little studio in the backyard, like a little work studio, and I was like, that's it. That's the space, because I love zoning. Like where I work, I have like 3 different places where I do work depending on what it is. So we renovated that little studio and that's where we work. So it feels like we go to work. And then I'm just really intentional. Like if I'm in the studio, I'm working. I'm not eating, I'm not scrolling on social media. Like I'm protecting that space as a work environment. And then when I come into the kitchen, like I'm preparing food and I'm cooking and I'm doing that. And when I go into the lounge room, I'm relaxing. Like I don't mix the spaces. And I think that more people, regardless if you work from home or not, would get a lot of benefit of zoning.
Yes.
Like zoning is doing a specific task and teaching your body and your nervous system that when I'm in the bedroom, I'm sleeping. Or when I'm in the bathroom, I'm going to the toilet. This is why when you walk into the pantry, you're hungry. It's because we zone and our body gets familiar with what we're actually doing. So I respect that a lot when I'm working from home.
That's good. I've always made the effort, because I work from home a lot too, to wake up and get dressed. Don't stay, as tempting as it might be sometimes, don't stay in your pajamas if you're working from home. Get ready in whatever you want to wear, do your hair a little bit, make yourself feel nice and not like you're in couch potato mode all day, and that will improve your productivity. And I've never been a fan of having like TVs in the bedroom or working on the laptop from the couch when a show's on. It just doesn't work. And again, your attention is divided. So the concept of zoning is absolutely brilliant. And subconsciously your body and mind knows, okay, here, now I'm in the office, we just work here. Now I'm in the bedroom, there's no TVs or distractions, So zoning your environment is awesome. Or if you do go into work, sometimes when I do go into the gym, I just lock the door. Like, I'm sorry, I would spend all day talking to people because it's just so fun. But then you would get nothing done. Like, be disciplined and just lock the door. Give yourself that space away from people. Then when you're ready to have a lunch break, pop out, say hello. You just have to take ownership, because particularly if you're a nice person, people just want to talk to you all the time. Take a bit of ownership and set your own boundaries.
Absolutely. And I think that comes down to like the the self-discipline piece as well is a lot of this stuff's not natural to us because we are so easily distracted and there is lots of things going on around us, but we have to know what our boundaries are and what our non-negotiables are if we actually do want to be efficient.
100%. And then I think just finishing off with the opposite spectrum in a sense of a lot of us just feel like we're never doing anything. When if you were to reflect on what you did last week to someone, they go, wow, you've done so much. But it's like, why do we still get that feeling that we haven't done anything in our day, which is ridiculous. So it's really important if you do have time or to make time at the end of the night, just reflect on what you did actually do in that day, because by the time it's 7 a.m. you're woken up to 9 o'clock, 10, whatever time you go to bed, you'll forget all of the amazing things you actually did do in that day. So we just need to give ourselves a break and just write down even 1 or 2 things where you're like, that was really cool. And one of them might even be rest. I allowed myself to have a rest.
Yes.
Just reflect at the end of the day, something positive that you got out of that day, because otherwise you just wake up, do a million things, go to bed, wake up, and it's just a depressing cycle.
Yeah.
Pat yourself on the back every now and then.
Yeah, we just spend our life doing things, right? And it's so important to actually take stock of what you have done. And for all the high achievers out there, instead of writing your to-do list, like write a to-done list.
Yes.
Like what did I get done today? It's a form of reflection, right? And if you're busy, that's actually the antidote. You need to reflect and slow down a little bit. And I remember this concept of productivity dysmorphia that I was reading about, where when you are surrounded with a lot of other high performers, or all you consume is content like this, or people that seem like they're crushing it and doing a lot of things, and we all know the realities of what people show on social media as well. They don't show the low days. If you're only consuming that, you can become a little bit warped of like how much you should be achieving. And as I said earlier, everything takes longer than what you think. So you might be doing the reps, but you might also just be in a room of high performers and you don't see what the normal productivity level is. And I think that's normal to associate yourself with. Like, it's important to actually take stock and be like, I am doing enough. I'm actually probably doing more than enough. I'm probably doing a lot.
Yes.
So making sure that you are zooming out and not always expecting 110% of yourself, because it's unrealistic. Like, why should we function 365 days a year exactly the same? It's not going to be possible. I even know throughout the month, that 1 week every month, I'm like, geez, productivity 10%. But that's okay. That's okay because I allow myself that cycle and I have the awareness to know why that's happening. So it's really important that you guys do too.
And if you do follow the accounts of the people that are quote unquote super productive, just take a look not at their output and results, but as them as a person. Are they encouraging relationships, friendships? Are they microdosing nicotine gum and all this bullshit? That probably does work.
Really? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I'm not.
I don't know, there are so many little things that people are doing, and it's
Vaping.
look at them as a human, and naturally we do compare, but then cool, their productivity and output is through the roof, but they haven't gone out with a friend in 6 months. Just remember that and compare it with the lifestyle that you wish to have, because we do need to have a well-rounded life, and it does come in seasons, but it's a little bit miserable of a life if all you're doing is achieving and then there's no one there with you.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
Totally. I'm really glad we finished off with that one, because life isn't just about always being productive too. We need to make sure that we're giving back to other areas as well.
How good. Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you guys could take something from today. We really just wanted to share some hacks and our own personal experiences, and also just normalize that we're not always super highly productive as well. It takes a lot of work at times, and there's certain things that we do. So hopefully you guys can take any of the lessons and hacks from today and include them in your own life.
Thanks, everyone. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and hit follow so you can stay up to date with our podcast every week.